Are you planning a trip to Paris on a budget? Then this video is for you. Paris is a top destination in Europe, and since it gets so many tourists, more than it can handle, prices can skyrocket. But what if you truly want to visit the art museums and you simply just want to see the iconic landmarks in France and in Paris that you've seen over and over in movies, TV shows, and you read so much about in books? Well, it feels like Paris is a luxury holiday destination with no in-between solution for those of us. We are not a small crowd, I guess, that just simply want to visit a museum and have a normal croissant in a not so famous pastry shop. What about us? Well, after many years, I went back to Paris and I did just that. A budget trip to Paris. In this video, I'm going to share all the tips on how to make possible a trip to Paris on a budget. Yes, it can be done because I've done it, and I'm going to tell you my exact itinerary, where I slept, what I ate, and all the tickets you need to buy and all the tips to keep your budget as low as possible. When talking and planning a trip to Paris, the first thing you need to plan for is how you get there. So probably you know that Paris has a bunch of airports, and depending on the airline chosen, you can land on any of them. If you're traveling from Europe, I recommend taking Ryanair, and they have amazing low-cost tickets. From there, you can take a shuttle from the airport to get to the city center, and from the city center, get the metro to get to your hotel. This was our hotel, which was just 15 minutes on foot from the famous Louvre Museum. So it looks like a basic hotel, and it is, but it's clean. They had Wi-Fi, hot water, the bed was good, the location was super safe for everything to be left in the room, and it was in a very central and safe location, touristic location, full of restaurants and even a shopping mall where you can go buy your food from a supermarket, Monoprix, which is very popular in France. And if you're on a budget, that's probably your best tip and best idea, to just get ready to eat food from the supermarket. If it's not rainy, you can eat it in the park in front of the shopping mall. And then after you ate and checked in your hotel, you can start walking to the museums. I chose this specific hotel. You can find the link in the description and in my blog. I have a complete blog about this Paris on a budget trip, and from there you can walk. So I highly recommend it to choose the best option for you, because spending a lot of time in traffic or transiting, commuting from your hotel to the center is going to be just a waste of time and money. So it's better to use that money to get a relatively center hotel. Then we crossed the Seine River to get to Musée d'Orsay, which is the first thing that we visited in Paris. Note that you need to pre-book your tickets online. The joy of visiting a new museum. So that you can skip the tickets queue and just go for the entrance. It looks like a queue, but it takes a while. Then if you have a big backpack, you will have to leave it in the clocked room, but otherwise you can just go walk around the museum. If you don't have a lot of baggage, which I don't recommend you bring with you at any of the museums in Paris. First thing we visited in the Orsay Museum is the collection of the Van Gogh. The Van Gogh Museum is quite impressive. It has 2 self-portraits, a bunch of other paintings of his, and also a version of the famous Starry Night. Can you see that? It was quite a queue here. Everybody was crazy with the Van Gogh. But remember, this is not the only place you can see Van Gogh. You can also visit the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, which also needs to be pre-booked. And you can also find Van Gogh paintings in New York. People are going crazy over it. The thing is that when you get to such popular exhibitions, it's so crazy and crowded that everybody wants to take a picture or a selfie or whatever, like we did right here. So it's not really enough space to actually admire the paintings. So I think that's a bit of a waste.
Cool, but do they have NFTs of it?
However, the second self-portrait of Van Gogh was not so popular, so it was easier to observe it. And there were other very interesting impressionist work of art around, a bunch of other things that were not as popular but equally as impressive for me. This was my favorite. After waking up so early to catch a plane to get to Paris, I was already very tired and the crowd wasn't helping. This is actually the 5th floor in the Orsay Museum. This is where you'll find a famous clock. Everybody was taking pictures here, so probably if you are keen on taking pictures inside the museum, which by the way is gorgeous, you have to come first thing in the morning before all the crowds get in. But if you're here just for a normal visit, I think it's okay to visit at any time, but it will be a bit crazy for taking pictures, so keep that in mind. And then we found some chairs, but nobody cares about them.
Except for the Danish, they really care about chairs.
But they're not here. However, there are other exhibitions throughout the Orsay Museum which had nobody. Like, for instance, this exhibition of chairs. People don't know, but the Scandinavians are crazy about chairs, so apparently they got in this museum as well. And here you find all sorts of amazing sculptures in the main hall. A lot of history or allegories from different times, different periods, different places in Europe. Depends on what you're looking for. Except for the first hall that I showed you with Van Gogh, all the others were actually manageable. It was not that bad, considering this is a world-famous museum. The entrance is on the other side where you see the clock, and where I'm taking the picture right here is the famous photo spot for Orsay Museum, which was also not that crazy. Just take your time. However, after about 2 hours in the museums, we were hungry, we were tired, our feet were hurting, and we were satisfied with our visit. There were so many photo opportunities. It's actually a really fun museum, but you have to go there well rested to take advantage of everything that the museum has to offer. And just make the day fun. It doesn't have to be like a school day, like a field trip where you have to see everything to make sure you enjoyed and seen everything the museum has to offer. The ticket for the Orsay Museum is 16 euros for an adult. If you're under 26, you can get in for free, or if you're a student, you can also get a discount on your ticket. Then we walked back to the hotel along the Seine River. On the way back, we walked by the Louvre Museum, which was very crowded, very busy. But it was a great opportunity to admire a bit of its outside architecture of the palace, because the palace is huge and you can walk around it for hours just to admire the architecture. This is one of the entrance, the main entrance. It was busy. It was probably around 6. It was very crowded, rainy a bit, so perfect time to visit a museum. I believe that the best time to visit Paris, if you're on a budget, is during the low season, which is the European winter. It's still crazy crowded, but at least you're gonna pay a bit less for hotels, which are normal hotels, but in the center. You see, the thing with hotels in Europe is that you pay more for the center hotels, because those are the best, because you can get anywhere on foot and you can go to restaurants. So that was the first day. It was a crazy day, and at the end of the day we were making research on what to visit in the Louvre Museum, because that was how we spent the second day. So I strongly recommend that you study their website and you study the museum map, because they have a map of the Louvre Museum on their website, so you know exactly where you want to go, what you want to visit. Because once you get in the museum and the crowds start pouring in, it's going to be really confusing.
Welcome to the capital of Europe, the pyramid. We are here where most people think is basically the middle of a crater of the civilization in Europe, and there's nothing beyond this square. And today we're going to explore this huge palace behind me, which a lot of people also call the presidential palace of Europe, of the Louvre. This is where culture was born, also Da Vinci and a lot of other great friends of his. And since we were really eager to visit this place, we bought tickets for the first time slot of the day, which is 9 a.m. This is the first time slot they let us go in, because we are merely peasants. And as you can see, we are the first people here, and we are really excited. So we brought snacks and a bunch of tools to make sure we're gonna see all the inhabitants of this palace. And yes, we have 2 days in Paris. We're gonna also see some other museums or go to sleep because we are aging and our knees are hurting already. It's very cold. It's February. People are coming here with their dresses, wedding dresses, you know, perfect place to do a photo shoot. Just in front of the Louvre. On the other side, you cannot see it, don't worry. You can see a hint of the famous Eiffel Tower, which was obviously, before the Louvre was the main center of Europe thing. And yes, I think we should go to that queue because we're not going to be the first ones if we're going to still be talking in 1 more minute. So let's go. Yes, it's cold. Huh.
We are now standing in front of one of the most important places in the world, the pyramids. Who built the pyramids? Well, according to Dan Brown, it was a guy by the name of Da Vinci.
This was 5 minutes before 9, and the crowds and the queue to get inside the museum was already huge. These were all the people that pre-booked the tickets online. So we all have tickets, and we were waiting to get in at 9 when the museum opens. I strongly suggest that you buy your tickets online before you get there, and that you book the entrance for the 9 a.m. time slot, which is when the museum opens, so that way you're going to be one of the first to get inside the museum. And at that time the crowds are still manageable. Trust me, it's going to get a lot worse later in the day. So if you're coming to Paris and you're coming here to visit the museums and the Louvre Museum is on your itinerary, you want to start as early as possible. Once we got in the museum, the first thing we wanted to do was to see the Mona Lisa, because we wanted to be sure we're gonna get a chance to at least stare at it for a second before thousands of people come pouring in. So we simply followed the signs and the crowd to get to the Mona Lisa. Trust me, there are signs for it. And this was probably at 20 minutes past 9 or around that. So there were already a bunch of people here, and to get to the front, which is not really close, it's like 10 meters away from the painting, you need a lot of patience, because people were just trying their best to get all their friends and family in front for a selfie. At some point we did get close to it. This is what I mean by in front. You cannot get any closer to the Mona Lisa than this. It's really tiny, and it's behind a glass wall.
I've now seen the Mona Lisa, and I've seen Nefertiti in Berlin. What else did I see? I've seen the Rosetta Stone. I've seen a bunch of I've seen the Scream in Norway. What I've realized just now is I hate art. Whoa.
So if you are okay with this,
Is it the original?
I really doubt it. I really doubt it's worth 20 bucks. I think the original is in some Italian painter's basement, and it's not Leonardo.
You can see the Mona Lisa behind the glass wall, and you can see the crowd a few meters away, the closest you can get. Aside from that, at 9:30, these are the halls of the museum, quite manageable, and there are so many things that you should see in the museum. It's just hard to make a list. You really have to study the museum map, which you find online, and then just make an itinerary, or simply just follow along with all the halls and try to see everything. But don't spend too much time in a spot because there's a lot to see. Also, because we were such in a hurry to get to the museum in the morning, we did not have breakfast that morning because there are so many cafes inside the museum. After you see the Mona Lisa or whatever you're trying to see first, you can stop for a coffee. And the prices were actually not bad. This was around 13 euros, 2 cafes and 2 pastries, and it was inside the museum, just meters away from the Mona Lisa hall. So I think that was a really, really good deal, and we just enjoyed our coffee with a view here. It was actually really, really nice. This is Napoleon putting a crown on Josefina's head. Another very famous photo spot. This is one of the ceilings in the palace. So many historical scenes are depicted in the paintings here in the Louvre. It's just, I don't have enough energy or memory to remember everything I saw. You just have to pay attention to the map and just follow the guide and just do it. Another very cool spot to visit, not to miss, is this gallery, which resembles Versailles, which is outside of Paris. So if you don't have time to go to that, just visit the Louvre Museum. However, this is a very popular hall, of course. It's also home to the French regalia, so photographing the ceiling was actually easy, but you can see the crowds are insane. So taking a picture here, even a selfie, was a challenge. I would recommend to come here first if you want this particular photo inside of the museum. So instead of visiting Mona Lisa first, probably I would say come here to this hall. This is called Galerie d'Apollon, and it's actually very interesting. Has a lot of details and paintings all over the place. It's photos and videos don't do it any justice, really, but as you can see, even glancing at the regalia was a challenge. It was crazy packed by the time we finished with our coffee. So this was probably at around 10:30 maximum. It was very crowded. I tried taking a bunch of pictures, but I'm not really pleased with those. So again, if you want a picture here, which I think is going to be better than the picture with the Mona Lisa, come to this gallery first.
Like the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, they haven't yet found funding to finish Venus de Milo of Paris. No arms. So that's why there was a pyramid here.
Why does it smell like a toilet here?
It smells like a toilet here. I don't know why. Oh man. Oh. It's like the pharaoh never left. Wow.
This is the foundation of the original palace, because the Louvre is a palace. And around there you can also see the Egyptian collection, which is quite fascinating. It's surreal to see how much they stole from Egypt. This is an entire chapel, I believe. This is a part of the what we call in the British Museum the Rosetta Stone. Here was nobody to look at it. A lot of columns, a lot of sculptures from the Egyptian collection, mummies and everything. There is so much to see. It's amazing. Some say you can spend 2 weeks in the museum, probably, if you pay attention to all the exhibits. We somehow managed to find a collection from North and South America, which was really hard to access. You have to take a special staircase from the second floor. And it's quite limited, but not a lot of people get there because it's hard to find. The Roman statues by Michelangelo, very famous. Yes, by this time Eddie was done with it. Our knees were hurting after walking and standing for so many hours. I think we spent around 6 hours, and by the time we exit, this was the queue to get in. And the queue, we followed the queue actually to exit, and it was going on forever. Right through the souvenir shops. It was more than you can actually spend standing. I mean, if you come after 12, you're gonna spend so many hours just standing in the line to get inside the museum. It makes no sense. People were on the floor resting because there are not a lot of benches. This is the entrance from under the pyramid, by the way. This is the most popular, which I don't recommend. We use the carousel entrance. All of this information is in my blog post. Go check that out because I included all the details. So you can see Eddie's face. We were so tired. Our heads were hurting. We were hungry. We were sleepy. It was just too much. Look at this queue. Wow. I mean, we were hungry, and we discovered that under the pyramid there's a food court, and it was not that expensive. We each had a Buddha bowl and a beer for about almost 17 euros per person. Again, all these details are in my blog post, including the costs for this budget trip to Paris. After we got out of the museum, we went to see the Eiffel Tower, and we went walking along the Seine River again. It's not such a long walk, and also it's full of other places to see in Paris, like Pont of Alexander III, which is a famous bridge, and then La Rue des Universités, which is a famous photo spot for the Eiffel Tower. As you can see, everybody was here. Again, if you're into pictures and you want to come to Paris to take all those pictures that you see online, you will probably need a bunch of days, because to get the best pictures, you need to wake up super early before everybody else does, and then probably you will get those pictures without other people in the background. Otherwise, it's simply impossible. And keep in mind that if you are planning on staying more days in Paris, the prices of your trip will dramatically increase. So if you're on a budget in Paris, then probably you'll just simply have to come to terms with the fact that Paris is very crowded, very busy, and it gets a lot of tourists. So that's that. However, when we visited, the Eiffel Tower was closed because there was a strike. The staff there were on a strike, and nobody was able to visit that day. However, it's free to visit in the garden in front of it, or on the other side. It's a Trocadero square, which is a famous photo spot. Right next to the Eiffel Tower is a place where you're gonna go and get on a cruise. I strongly suggest, if this is your first time in Paris, to go on a cruise, because it's a well-rested break for your knees and legs, and you can still admire the city. Yeah. The views were actually really nice, but during these 2 days I spent in Paris, it was mostly cloudy, and here it was starting to rain already. On the way back, we took the metro. Trip by the metro is €2.15, and you can pay it at the machine inside any metro station. And we went to see the Cathedral of Notre Dame, which is still closed after the fire of 2019. And then we got close to our hotel. It's very lively, the neighborhood that I'm suggesting for the hotel. It's full of restaurants for all budgets, for everybody, but we end up buying our dessert and dinner in the supermarket, and it was actually really good. We even got beer and everything we needed. So you can do Paris on a budget by eating at the supermarket and buying beer at the supermarket. And in the end, if you're not a foodie, because we are not foodies, this is a great option, because you got to visit Paris, you got to visit the famous museums in Paris, world famous museums of Louvre and Musée d'Orsay, and survive. I mean, I even had eclair, which is very popular here in Paris, but instead of getting from a very fancy cafe, I got it from the supermarket. Trust me, it was really good, and probably half the price. It was just a few euros. Next morning, our last morning in Paris, we went to a coffee shop, a cafe in Paris to have, I had a latte, I think, here with almond milk and a pastry, which is a must-do in Paris. And this didn't break the bank. It was about €5 per person, I believe. And then we headed to the airport. This is us with our only carry-on luggage, because in Europe, if you travel only by carry-on, it's much cheaper than if you get like a checked luggage. From the metro station close to our hotel, we got the train to get to Paris Orly Airport. It was almost €15 per person, and it was really easy to get there. If you're confused, you can always ask the staff at the station how to get there. They will gladly help you. And then we got to Paris Orly. This is airport in Paris for low-cost airlines, but they also have a French bee airline flying from here to the United States. So if you're visiting Paris from Miami or New York, then you can get to Paris through here. I hope this video was helpful, and I hope it inspires you to plan your trip to Paris on a budget, because it's possible, and this is how you do it. If you need more help, do check my blog. You have the link in the description below. Thank you, and see you in my next video.